Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Flash. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we have the whole situation. Let's focus on Frost's side of the story, which obviously, she waived like a trial and everything, and or sent like whatever, like she waived something and just went straight to kind of putting in a guilty plea. So now the situation is like, well, with the charges, she could get 10 to 20 years but if we, the judge is willing to take into account all the good that Frost has done as well, so that kind of balances things out. So initially, it's a situation where it's like, everyone wants, it's like, oh, we got to find like a better way of like handling this. It's like, Barry's got to deal with the whole Fraser thing, which we'll get to later. But the fact of the matter is, Kramer is going hard into paint, and it's like, once again, it's like, why? And especially the whole thing with Argus, because that's also the thing too I don't understand, is like, why is Argus backing her move so much? Like, maybe they agree with that. Like, we still never got into that in this episode. Like, once again, they introduced Agent Cooper like a couple episodes back. I'm like, that dude's gotta be like a robot or something. Like, the way he's talking and stuff like that, he doesn't seem like a human. But also, like I brought up too, I think this seems like this is folding into the original timeline of Argus, where Argus was like super anti-meta and we're hunting down metas. Like 1.0 Zari, like that timeline she was from, that where her brother Vayrod ended up dying. So I think we're kind of leaning into that a little bit with this particular storyline. I don't know. We'll see where things kind of go, but they don't want to just, like, obviously, like, Cecile's able to kind of, like, pitch the whole thing of, like, who Frost was. Yes, she's not trying to escape punishment. She is, like, letting you dish out what you have to dish out to her. We're just asking for a lighter sentence. But the other side, the prosecutors, they don't want that, especially Kramer. They're pushing for her to take the metahuman cure. It's like, wait, what? And that's a big thing Cisco says. Like, the metahuman cure was always supposed to be something that's voluntary. It's your choice whether you take it or not. To force it upon someone is kind of effed up, and especially because it's saying, they're trying to suggest like, hey, when you arrest someone, you take away their weapons. A metahuman is basically a living weapon. Take away their powers, and that kind of stops them from being the dangerous criminals that they are. And so it eventually turns into that. It's not even about sending her to jail for a certain length of time anymore. It's like, no, we want her powers. That's kind of the only thing that's on the table right now. And obviously they're trying to fight that as much as they can, trying to find like loopholes around it. And even the others are like, Allegra, Cisco, and Caitlin are like, all right, we'll do whatever we got to do. But like, you had Frost being like, no, we're like, the fact of the matter is, breaking the law is what got me here in the first place. And for one, I'm not trying to go like side away from punishment. I need to pay for what I've done. It's only fair. Once again, because like Barry's kind of been in a similar circumstance. Once again, kind of getting arrested for the DeVoe thing. He could have fought a way around it, but I'm surprised they didn't use that, but I guess it's a little bit different considering it's like, well, Barry didn't do anything in that position, because it makes it, he was accused of killing DeVoe. It's like, Barry didn't do it, so it's a different circumstance. This is like, well, everything Frost is accused of doing, she actually did, so it's a little bit of a different circumstance. But nevertheless, I think there's still parallels you can draw to it. Like, yeah, Barry kind of accepted, the time he spent, like, I'm gonna do the time, like, handle this the right way. I'm not gonna break the law, even though I could. So she's trying to do the same thing, like, yeah, let's follow this by the book, don't break the law. But the trio doesn't listen. They want to kind of do it their way. So they basically find a roundabout way to basically neutralize the cures, which obviously that turned into like a little bit of a stealth mission. It got complicated because I also figured that's how Allegra could get around it. It's like, yeah, you are part of the citizens, so you could be like, hey, I'm here for like, and she got an interview with Kramer, but I'm curious what went down in those conversations. Did Allegra like push certain topics or something like that? Probably not. She probably made it like a puff piece just to kind of keep her from being too suspicious. So they were able to neutralize the cure, and by the time we actually get inside of the courtroom, it's actually Joe's turn to kind of speak on things, and he talks about, yes, she did these crimes, but the fact of the matter is, look at what she was able to do. Like, we're judging her based on what she did before, but the fact of the matter is, look at what she's done now. She saved so many lives. Like, hell, like, even being like, everyone in this courtroom, her doing what she's done has saved your lives, because it's like, she saved the world. Yeah, let's not forget, played our own role in saving the multiverse, which is a complicated thing considering, in fact, it's just like, we'll label it just saving the world, but it's like, we're saving the multiverse, especially considering not all the worlds were just, there were multiple worlds that got slapped into one, and a lot of the multiverse is dead for now until it splits back. Once again, we haven't fully reached the point where, like, everything kind of branches back out multiverse-wise, but regardless, so for him, it's like, it's about justice, and for him, he's saying, like, how is this really justice, punishing someone for, being a hero, like, making up for their crimes, and the judge is actually willing to listen, and she does, and it's like, all right, she's actually leaning in Frost's favor. You're like, oh, this actually gonna work out? Oh, nope, because Kramer found out about the shady stuff you guys did. You weren't as sneaky as you thought. Because also Kramer's probably got eyes and ears everywhere waiting for you. Like, she was making sure, like, nah, this is going to go off without a hitch. And so, Caitlyn takes the fall for saying, like, I did it, but it's like, no, doesn't matter. We're still giving her the cure, because it's like, yeah, you might have ruined those samples, but look, oh man, Argus has been working on another cure. It's like, the fact that she had that contingency plan already in place, and it's like, I guess it wasn't just like, if anything happened to those cures, it was just kind of like, we can replicate this whenever we want to type of thing. So like, it had one vial, but it's like, oh, by tonight we'll have like 100 vials or whatever. So it was kind of all for naught. But so you're kind of like, oh, it's only Caitlyn and them. But truth be told, I think Kramer, regardless of anything, she wanted to take Frost down so bad that, like, she was willing to do whatever it took. So she would have found a loophole. She would have found a way to kind of skirt things more towards her favor. I mean, but who knows? Maybe she wouldn't have had much of a choice. There would have been no options if Caitlyn, Allegra, and Cisco hadn't given her one. And it kind of falls more on Caitlyn, because for Caitlyn, it's like, no, I'm not going to sit here and do nothing while my sister is going to be forced in this situation. Especially because at this point, they're Caitlyn's mom is like running tests, because Frost is more metahuman than Caitlyn is, because she's like the metahuman aspect. And that's also a thing too, is like, all she's ever known as her life is a metahuman. To kind of take that away, super jacked up. But it's also because of that structure to who she is, like the way their bodies were and who she is now. It's like, taking a metahuman cure could harm her or kill her, because she's kind of a full-blown metahuman. There's not like the human aspect of her that was Caitlyn. Like, I mean, it's still there, hits metahuman, but still, it's like, she's more meta DNA than anything. I would assume, like, kind of breaking that down. But luckily, Caitlyn later on is like, oh, it's okay. Mom says, like, if you take the cure, it's going to be fine, so you're good. But obviously for Frost, it's like, no, like, I'm not going to lose my powers. And it's like, but for Caitlyn, it's like, because it's like, no, you said, like, the cure should be my choice. And she's like, yeah, and I don't understand why you're not choosing it. But for Frost, it's like, her powers are a part of herself. Asking her to cut that away is asking her to no longer be her. It's like, because of psych and everything, I learned your greatest fear was losing me. You will lose me if we go down this route. And that's also, and it's interesting timing, because Black Lightning's kind of deal with that a little bit too, because, like, obviously that's something that's kind of going through Lynn's head. That's obviously a conversation between Grace and Anissa about, like, but it's like, for them, it's like their powers are a part of them, and it's like asking someone to, like, have that taken away. Yeah, there's trouble that comes with being the hero and everything, like, we risk our lives and everything, but this is a part of ourselves, like, in many different regards. So it's very befitting for, like, that episode of Black Lightning to air with this episode of The Flash too, with kind of that similar conversation about, like, this is a part of who I am. I'm not going to, like, lose a part of who I am, and also Frost being like, this isn't about protecting me. This is about protecting yourself. And Caitlyn kind of realizes, it's like, I'm not doing what you wanted. Everything I've been doing is what I wanted. And that's just like, I just want to keep you in my life. You're my sister. I love you, But obviously Frost also gets a meeting with Kramer, because Joe sets it up, because for him, the entire episode, and that's also I've been thinking that too. It's like, Kramer seems like she's got a hard on for, like, Frost, but it's like, why? Because that's also the thing. Even Frost, like, when she has the conversation, it's like, what is it? Like, why do you hate me so much? Did I hurt someone you care about? And it turns out, and it's like, oh, because of people like you. And you're like, oh, okay. And it's what I thought. It's like, I figured as much. Like, I was like, oh, is Kramer, like, anti-metahuman? Turns out she super is, to a certain extent. I was like, of course she, because even her remarks about the Flash when she popped up in her, was like, whoa, you're going to take down the Flash? It's like, yeah, he's a hero. for now, because it's like, it's almost like she's expecting all metahumans to kind of almost turn that road. But for her, it's like, you know, she's like, I'm only going after the metahumans that are criminals, because for her, it's like, she led a unit, and that unit was led by this like metahuman she trusted and believed in, thinking they were right and the hero, but it's like that metahuman betrayed them, and she lost her entire unit of like 20 people. So for her, it's like, I'm never going to let like a metahuman just kind of run rampant again. Like, I trusted the wrong person. And so it's like, you are a criminal. You can, like, because it's like, yeah, you only turned yourself in because you were surrounded. Yes, but she didn't put up a fight. She could have easily put up a fight. I don't think you guys would have been able to necessarily stop her. Plus, she actually stopped the actual killer. Are we not going to like focus on the fact that she actually caught the actual criminal responsible for everything last episode? But we're just going to completely look over that, because that, I guess that just gets lumped in with all the hero stuff. But it's like, oh, you just turned yourself in. It's like, you were running for, like, you were avoiding, you know, punishment for years. It's like, no, she was out and about. Once again, Jitters literally named a drink after her, but it's like, you guys only coming after her now. It's only because you are making such a point. Like, was it the state that really pushed for this, or was it Kramer convincing the state to really push for it, you know? So that's what this comes down to. And obviously Caitlin was like, she figured she knew a way out of this, because for Frost, what bothers her the most is like, if I have to be sacrificed, that's one thing, but like knowing like Kramer's going to use her as a precedent of like, because she even said, oh, I'm doing this for your own good, because it's like, you know, it's like, by taking away these powers and everything, like, you're going to be like a normal person. Like, the fact is, you won't be tempted by, like, I guess the evil of your powers or whatever. But it's a conversation about like, because if this sets the precedent that like criminals are forced to take the cure, metahuman criminals are forced to take the cure, like Frost is going to be the first, and then that every criminal going forward, metahuman criminal is going to be forced to take it. And so for Frost, it's like, it's not just about me anymore, it's about every other metahuman, you know, going after me. So Caitlin was like, I have an idea. I thought she was going to suggest like, but this wouldn't help everything in the long run. This would only help Frost, and that would kind of be feeding more into the don't be selfish, be selfless thing. Because I was thinking like Caitlin and her would switch spots. Like, oh, hit her with the fake with the cure, but it won't affect her. But to be fair, like, it's like, because I was like, you could get away with that because Caitlin and her look exactly the same DNA and everything. But also at the same time, like, there's probably test results ahead of time. Plus, she's being monitored, so if they switch places, you know, once again, Frost would never be down for that anyway. So when it comes down to in the court, like, you know, Frost wants to speak. She talks about the fact is that, yes, she made the mistakes that she's made. And it's like, you comparing a human's, like, oh, like someone's weapon being taken away isn't the same thing with a metahuman. Like, the fact is, because you're telling us that because we're different, we're the issue. And we can't help being different what we are. Like, whatever, you know, circumstances made us metahumans. And yeah, we might have gone down a criminal route, but we are who we are. And we're not going to change because of anyone else. Like, you can't, like, just take that away from us, a part of us, you know? And, you know, it should be about change in a sense of our actions. That should be what comes first and foremost of, like, look at my actions, like what it was before. I found someone I was very selfish instead of selfless, but I grew to become selfless when I found someone to protect, and that led me to protecting other people and protecting the city. So for her, at the end of the day, I will take life without parole. And, you know, even the judge realizing, like, okay, how she weighs in on this. Because, obviously, like, Kramer was like, objection, Your Honor, that's not, like, what this is all about. But then, like, Cecile objects by being like, you said what you wanted was kind of like this criminal to kind of not be a danger to the public. If she's locked away in prison, then she's not a danger. So, like, why are you still pressing, like, the cure? You get what you want, you're just not getting what you really want, and that's her cured. So, and even the judge agrees, because it's like, right, counsel, those were your words. Also, Miss Kramer, you're not actually counsel, so sit your ass down. So, and it's like, looking at Frost and say, do you understand what you're asking? And it's like, I understand, you know, it's like, okay, so the metahuman, and she says, Frost, life without parole. You know, she made that sacrifice, but home dude's in the courtroom being like, every metahuman in the city is going to know what you sacrificed for us, you know? And it's sad at the end of the day that things came down to that. And even later on when Kramer shows up, she's with the Joe and being like, I hope you understand why I did what I did. Like, I understand, like, you're a good cop. We may not agree on, like, how I handle a lot of things, but you're a good cop. and you are all about justice, which he's like, I understand too. I really downright hate some of your methods, but I understand at the heart, I see a good cop. And she's like, but that's not all you see. And he's like, remember what side of the line you are on, like that basically, because a lot of what you've done now, it was like you were very vindictive and against someone that did you no wrong, that someone that like, because basically you came in town, tore her life upside down, because it's such a shame. She just got her life, you know. I don't know what it'd be like, because that's the thing, like maybe this tragedy behind it is this perfect timing or terrible timing, because she's in prison by herself. But if Caitlyn and her was still one person, it would be a situation of Caitlyn being in prison with her. It's like at least she'd have someone, but maybe the argument could be like, well, Frost will just be on the hunt, be hunted forever, but she'll stay inside. I'll just stay Caitlyn all the time, like, you know. And that's no way for her to be able to live her life, because they had made a deal even before then, you know, for her to have an opportunity, run the body and just kind of do her own thing, you know. But it's like I said, she barely got a chance to just live her own life. She's been living it, but like just free and just kind of, you know, but she made a selfless decision to sacrifice herself in this episode. So that's just, you know, sad. I don't know if we're going to run into Kramer anymore. Maybe this is going to change her, and maybe like eventually they'll try to overturn Frost's situation, because there's no way they're going to let her just stay locked up the entire time. Like, I'm just curious like what the workaround for that's going to ultimately be. So we have that. Then on the other side of the episode, it's like, all right, we got to find, like, Fuerza. There's, like, seismic radiations or whatever kind of saying that she's in this location. So Barry and the Speed Force show up there, and it's like, oh, there's just regular people. So, but obviously you also, like, when it's like, all right, we got to investigate this. And then, like, once again, the Speed Force is acting super shady, being like, yeah, like, we got to take them down. Like, they came after me. Like, these are very dangerous. Like, even no matter what they look like, human or not. But, like, also Iris is pointing out, yeah, but it's like, something's not right. What about Dion? Like, Dion was all about fixing his own history and stuff like that, what he was up to. And it's like, not really the, oh, come and attack and try to murder someone, necessarily in the sense of, like, coming after the Speed Force. He was kind of very, like, selfish in what he was doing. So it's kind of like, huh. You know, it's something we haven't dived into, because now, like, with Fuerza, we get to it in this episode, but obviously with Dion, we got it. But it's like, what about Psyche? We still don't know about, like, the circumstances behind that person behind the mask of, like, that particular force, about what that's all about. Their circumstances, because it doesn't seem like they're all necessarily evil. I mean, Dion's kind of like, oh, like, I'm going to use my power to kind of make the world where I want it to be, but it's not as, like, super villainy as you would kind of expect. But nevertheless, following the signal, Barry and the Speed Force end up running into Alexa Rivera, and it's a thing of like, yeah, we thank you, man. No, we're not here because of your past. She's like, I'm an addict and everything, but I'm here like helping people out and stuff. I'm trying to make up for my past. But Barry's like, no. I'm actually a CSI, a crime scene investigator. So I'm like, I'm not here to like, I don't even actually have like the power to like arrest anyone. It's like, well, we think that you're a particular metahuman. She's like, I'm not a meta. It's like, well, we'd like to get you tested, and trying to like take her to Star Labs, but then like freaking Nora goes harder to paint, being like, no, like, we know you're this monster that tried to kill me, blah, 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 blah. And you know, Alexa's like, I'm like, I'm not going anywhere near Star Labs. They're the one that started this metahuman epidemic in the first place. It's like, to be fair, you can kind of understand that. Like, yeah, it's kind of like a lot of people would be like anti-Star Labs. It's like, no, like, what kind of weird stuff are you guys up to? I mean, your particle accelerator created metahumans in the first place, kind of making this city a dangerous place on a week-to-week basis. So there's that element to it. But nevertheless, and Barry confronts Nora about it later on. She's like, all right, she's like, I don't get why you're so upset. It's like, she's but it's like, yeah, but we don't know that. And it's like, well, just use our super speed. We'll grab her, test her, and put it back before she even has a chance to take a breath. And Barry's like, wait, what? And even Iris is like, no, we don't do that. It's like, why not? Like, we have the power. Like, these things are so dangerous. We need to do this. But for her, it's like, you're asking Barry to do something. We don't just grab people and do something like that. Like, that's not the hero that you're asking him to go against, the hero that he is, you know. So, and I think it turns into an interesting thing of like, you know, Iris being, at the end of the day, Barry, it's your choice. And it's an interesting dilemma, because he's caught between the two most important women in his life. Hey, here's my wife, my lightning rod. Oh, and here's the omnipotent being that gave me my powers in the first place. my literal lightning. So, kind of rocking a hard place, but not really, because Barry knows what the right thing to do is, and he goes along with what Iris suggests. Shows up as the Flash and talks to Alexa, and it's like, we're not trying to force it, just, we just want to test this out to make sure everything's okay. And even Alexa admits, like, yeah, I've been blacking out, because it turns out when Abracadabra destroyed a lot of the stuff that people were working on, the housings and stuff like that, she was just so mad. She turned into Fuerza. That's what that was all about, killing him. Because he became the focus of her rage. And she's scared to know the truth, because of all that she's kind of done to work to get to where she is, and knowing the truth. But for Barry, it's like knowing the truth is kind of a better thing, because at least that way, you don't have to live in fear, constant fear of wondering, well, are you or are you not? This way you get an answer, but also we're going to be there to help you every step of the way. So when they return, it's like, well, everything's going to be okay. We're going, even Nora making this comment, like, don't worry, if things turn sideways, like the Flash will show up, and even Barry kind of be like, why the hell you say that? That's weird. I was almost wondering whether or not he was going to show her his real identity just to like ease Alexa, being like, oh yeah, I'm Barry Allen, I'm the Flash. But obviously they want to test it. We'll inject you with a little bit to kind of see whether or not you activate or not. And then like Nora looks at Iris being like, you really are his lightning rod, because Barry listened to you and didn't listen to me. And Iris is like, yeah. It's like, what the fuck? What's that about? I'm like, the way she was looking at Iris too, I was like, she looking like super shady, because like, I've been having that feeling the entire time about the Speed Force, and ultimately she ends up showing her colors when Alexa is revealed to be Fuerza. And it's like, Barry's like, don't worry, we'll find a way to help you. And freaking Nora goes full-blown attack mode. They're like, no, Nora, what the hell are you doing? It's like, she's a danger. The fact of the matter is, Barry, you're not willing to do what's necessary. They try to come after me. You promised me you help me do this, and you're breaking your promise. And so she attacks, it's like, you're right. You are his lightning rod, but I'm his lightning. And just like fires some electricity, and Barry like dashes over and throws his. But in the moment, it's exactly what Nora wants, because she takes her lightning and combines it with Barry and's like, thank you. And it ends up attacking Alexa. It seems like killing her. And it's like, whoa, that's dark, dude. I guess like, because she said like, we need to combine our powers. So she wanted to take her powers, and by combining it with Barry's, like it's enough to kind of pushed him over the edge. I mean, especially because Alexa wasn't even transforming into Fuerza, is because that was probably why she chose now to attack, because it's like, oh, you're in your weakened state. Like, if I can kill you before you transform, then it makes this a little easier. But, yeah, killed an innocent woman. And it's like, she didn't ask for this. Like, we don't know how this whole shebang works, or how these particular people... That's what I was also talking about Psyche. We don't know what his circumstances are. We know about Dion's circumstances, but we don't know how, like, the forces are choosing its human hosts. I mean, because that's the thing. Every one of their hosts are, like, humans. Because, once again, I thought, like... My initial thought was like, and I explained this during the Dion episode, of being like, oh, so the forces are possessing people. So once again, we don't know who Psyche was that got possessed, but we got to meet who Fuerza was possessing, but also who the Steel Force was possessing, Dion. But But like I said, my thought was kind of like Nora. Nora's not possessing a body. The Speed Force just manifests itself and transforms into whoever it wants to. But it's like crossing this line, because it looks like Alexa's dead. Not unless we can, like, Fuerza's kicking in and like able to kind of revert that. But it seems like, I wonder, like, by killing the host, you're killing the Force inside potentially. It seemed like Psyche's still a thing. They were saying, like, yeah, like, the energy can still be felt. Like, maybe it takes a while for Psyche to kind of piece himself back together. Like, maybe his original host is gone, so he's moving on to another host. Maybe the same thing for Fuerza. Like, did Nora kill it, or did she absorb it? It didn't seem like she absorbed it. She just straight up killed it. But then, like, that scary thing of, like, Barry looking at her and be like, it's time to choose a side, Barry. It's like, ooh, final line of the episode too. It's like, not only were you shady, you scary, Speed Force. It's like, we've never seen you like this, but it's like your circumstances of you popping up the way you did, once again, your story being a little like, I don't know, you've been shady for a while, but now it's like you full-blown scary. Now Barry might have to go toe-to-toe with the Speed Force, and it's like, yikes, what that's gonna be, The question is, like, what happened to the Speed Force? Did, like, those circumstances of, like, Barry's betrayal or whatever, like, did that, like, morph, like, the Speed Force in some shape or form? Like, we don't fully know the circumstances of it coming back and under what circumstances. Like, is it true that the others did attack you, or is that a BS story you created just so you can go after them? Like, are you like power hungry? Like, could this actually not be the Speed Force he knows? Could this actually be like Eobard's negative Speed Force manifest? Is it kind of like a twin to the Speed Force or something? Like, kind of like the soap opera thing of like, oh, this is the evil twin. It seems like it's legitimately the Speed Force, but maybe like something happened where she's kind of gotten corrupted. Even it's a conversation of like people acting out of fear is kind of a big part of this episode, because it's like, well, to be fair, like what Kramer's doing is out of fear. So maybe because even Barry be like, I get it, you were scared, like you were almost killed by them, but it's like, we don't have to do this. So could it just be the thing is that her acting out of fear is making her vengeful and just acting out of anger? We'll ultimately have to wait and see, but I'm super interested to find out where the hell that's going to take us going forward. Because I was almost wondering, like, when their lightning touch, I was like, oh, is that about to create, like, is that going to create something? But it's like, yeah, it created the ultimate lightning ball that the Speed Force needed to combine their lightnings, their powers together to kill Frieza. So, like I said, we'll have to wait and see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.